The Grand Council Chamber of the Galactic Hegemony was a sight to behold, a vast and opulent amphitheater of gleaming obsidian and shimmering holographic displays. Towering columns of iridescent crystal supported a vaulted ceiling that seemed to stretch endlessly upward, bathing the assembled delegates in an ethereal glow. Yet, on this day, the chamber was tinged with a palpable sense of unease. Hushed whispers and furtive glances darted between the representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations, their normally stoic features etched with a mixture of curiosity and trepidation. Tarakesh, the revered speaker of the council, rose from her ornate chair, her flowing robes rustling softly as she regarded the gathered delegates with a stern gaze. For countless cycles, she had presided over this august body, guiding the great powers through times of peace and conflict with a steady hand. But never before had she felt the weight of her responsibility so acutely. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice resonating with a quiet authority that demanded silence. "We have been summoned here today to address a matter of the utmost urgency. Our esteemed colleagues from the distant human colony have brought forth news that threatens to unravel the very fabric of the galactic hegemony." At Tarakesh's gesture, the massive doors at the far end of the chamber swept open, and a small procession of humans filed in, their bearing a curious mix of pride and apprehension. Leading them was Elysia, the colony's chief scientist and de facto ambassador to the council. As Elysia approached the central dais, the councilors leaned forward, their curiosity palpable. For generations, the humans had been regarded as a primitive backwater species, barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone the construction of advanced military technology. Yet here they stood, bearing news that could potentially upend the delicate balance of power that had sustained the galaxy for millennia. Elysia inclined her head respectfully toward Tarakesh, then turned to address the assembled delegates. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice tinged with a hint of trepidation. "We come before you today with both pride and foreboding in our hearts." With a subtle gesture, Elysia signaled to her colleagues, who hurried to unfurl a series of holographic projections. Instantly, the chamber was filled with the shimmering image of a sleek, angular warship, its elegant, streamlined form a stark contrast to the bulky, utilitarian vessels typically associated with human engineering. "This is the Armageddon," Elysia announced, her words laced with a tangible sense of awe. "It is the pinnacle of our scientific and technological achievements, a vessel capable of feats of speed, maneuverability, and firepower that eclipse even the mightiest ships in your own fleets." As the councilors studied the holographic display, murmurs of disbelief and concern rippled through the chamber. Tarakesh herself leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concentration, her keen eyes scrutinizing every detail of the vessel's design. This is remarkable," she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. "How is it possible that your people have achieved such a feat of engineering? We have long regarded humans as a primitive species, barely capable of venturing beyond your own solar system, let alone constructing a warship of such magnitude and capability." Elysia nodded solemnly, understanding the councilors' bewilderment. "I can assure you, honored delegates, that the Armageddon is no mere fantasy or deception. It is the product of decades of dedicated research and innovation, driven by our most brilliant minds." The human scientist paused, her expression darkening. "Yet even as we stand before you with this remarkable achievement, we come to you with a heavy heart. For we fear that our creation may have profound implications, not just for our own people, but for the delicate balance of power that has sustained your civilizations for generations." The grand chamber fell silent as Elysia's words hung in the air, the weight of their implication crushing the breath from every delegate present. Tarakesh leaned back in her chair, her regal features etched with a deep contemplation that betrayed the turmoil raging within. For countless generations, the great interstellar civilizations of the galactic hegemony had jealously guarded their military superiority, using it as both a shield and a sword to maintain their dominant position in the galaxy. The humans, a young and relatively insignificant species, had always been viewed as little more than curious anomalies. A backwater culture, barely capable of interstellar travel, let alone the construction of advanced, high-tech warships. And yet, here before them stood irrefutable proof that this perception was grievously mistaken. The Armageddon, with its sleek, angular design and its revolutionary propulsion, defensive, and weapons systems, was a technological marvel that surpassed even the mightiest vessels in the Council's fleets. The implications were staggering, and Terrakesh knew that the delicate balance of power that had endured for so long was now in jeopardy. "You say that your creation may have profound implications for our civilizations," the speaker said slowly, her luminous eyes fixed upon Elijah. "Explain to us, if you will, the nature of these implications. We must understand the full scope of what you have achieved before we can determine the appropriate course of action." Elijah drew a deep breath, her expression grave. "Honorable delegates, the Armageddon is not merely a technological marvel, but a symbol of a profound shift in the human approach to military engineering and innovation. Through a process we call lateral thinking, our scientists have discovered new ways of solving complex problems that transcend the rigid, linear methodologies that have long dominated the field." The human scientist paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembled counselors. "Where your more technologically advanced counterparts might have approached a military challenge with a predetermined set of solutions, our people have embraced the unpredictable, creative potential of the human mind. We have allowed ourselves to explore unconventional avenues, to challenge preconceived notions, and to combine disparate concepts in ways that defy conventional wisdom." Elijah's expression darkened, her voice tinged with a note of concern. "And in doing so, we have achieved breakthroughs that your civilizations may find unsettling. The Armageddon is merely the first of what we believe will be many such innovations that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in the galaxy." The counselors exchanged troubled glances, their features etched with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. Terrakesh raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that had begun to ripple through the chamber. "You speak of a shift in the very nature of military technology," the speaker said, her words measured and deliberate. "If what you say is true, then the ramifications could be profound. Your lateral thinking could grant your people capabilities that we have long believed to be the exclusive domain of the elder races." Elijah nodded solemnly. "That is precisely our concern, honored delegates. We have glimpsed the potential of this new approach, and we fear that it may upset the delicate balance of power that has sustained your civilizations for millennia. We come to you, not as conquerors or usurpers, but as humble explorers, seeking your guidance on how best to proceed." Terrakesh's brow furrowed in deep contemplation, her gaze drifting to the shimmering holographic projection of the Armageddon. "Then it is our responsibility," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "to determine the course of action that will ensure the continued stability and prosperity of the galactic hegemony. The future, it seems, is no longer ours alone to forge." The grand hall fell silent as the delegates grappled with the implications of Elijah's words. For generations, the elder races of the galactic hegemony had reigned supreme in the realm of military might, their advanced civilizations boasting an arsenal of vessels and weaponry that were the envy of the galaxy. But now, a young and seemingly insignificant species had emerged, wielding an approach to innovation that threatened to upend the very foundations of that order. Terrakesh's luminous eyes swept across the assembly, gauging the reactions of her fellow counselors. Some wore expressions of deep concern, their brows furrowed in contemplation, while others betrayed a glimmer of naked fear, a fear of the unknown, and the potential upheaval it might bring. "You speak of this lateral thinking as a revolutionary approach to military engineering and innovation," the speaker said, her voice measured and calm. "Yet, you have not fully explained the nature of this process, nor how it has enabled your people to achieve such remarkable feats of technology. I believe I speak for us all when I say that we require a more detailed understanding before we can begin to assess the implications." Elijah inclined her head respectfully. "Of course, Honored speaker, it is a complex, and I must admit, somewhat nebulous concept to articulate, but I shall endeavor to do so to the best of my ability. The human scientist paused, gathering her thoughts. You see, in our approach to problem solving, we have learned to embrace the inherent unpredictability and creativity of the human mind. Rather than seeking to rigidly constrain our thinking within the bounds of established military doctrines, we have discovered that by allowing our minds to freely explore unconventional avenues, we can stumble upon solutions that defy the limitations of conventional wisdom. As Elijah spoke, the counselors leaned forward, their curiosity piqued. Tarakesh herself found herself enraptured by the human's words, her keen intellect grappling with the implications of this radically different approach to military innovation. You see, Elijah continued, her eyes alight with a sense of wonder. The human mind is a remarkable thing. It is not bound by the same rigid linear logic that governs the computer systems and algorithmic processes employed by our more technologically advanced counterparts. Instead, we are able to make intuitive leaps, to draw connections between disparate concepts, and to imagine solutions that may seem, at first glance, entirely illogical. The human scientist gestured toward the shimmering hologram of the Armageddon, her expression suffused with pride. It is through this unconventional approach that we were able to achieve the breakthroughs necessary to create this vessel. We did not simply build upon existing technologies, refining and improving them incrementally. Rather, we allowed ourselves to challenge the very foundations of what was considered possible, and in doing so, we discovered entirely new pathways to military innovation. Tarakesh nodded slowly, her gaze fixed upon the elegant form of the Armageddon. A fascinating, and I must admit, rather unsettling concept. She murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. If what you say is true, then your people may possess capabilities that we have long believed to be the exclusive domain of the elder races. The speaker's expression hardened, her luminous eyes narrowing. And therein lies the crux of our concern, young Elijah. For if your lateral thinking grants you access to military technologies that could upset the delicate balance of power in the galaxy, then we must carefully consider the ramifications, both for your people and for the stability of our own civilizations. Elijah's gaze did not waver, her expression resolute. I understand your trepidation, honored speaker. But I assure you, our intent is not to disrupt or usurp the established order. Rather, we come to you in the spirit of cooperation and understanding, seeking your guidance on how best to navigate this uncharted territory. Tarakesh nodded slowly, her features softening. Then it is our duty, as the guardians of the galactic hegemony, to listen, to understand, and to determine the course of action that will ensure the continued prosperity of all our peoples. The future, it seems, is no longer ours alone to forge. As the grand hall fell silent once more, Tarakesh could feel the weight of the council's gaze upon her. The delegates, representatives of the most powerful civilizations within the galactic hegemony, were now faced with a challenge the likes of which they had never before encountered. A young, ascendant species that had somehow managed to achieve technological feats in the realm of military might that rivaled, and in some cases, surpassed their own. The speaker's brow furrowed as she contemplated the gravity of the situation. For millennia, the elder races had jealously guarded their military superiority, using it as both a shield and a sword to maintain their dominance over the cosmos. The humans, once dismissed as little more than a primitive backwater culture, had now shattered that illusion, presenting them with a creation, the Armageddon, that defied all expectations. Tarakesh turned her gaze toward the holographic projection of the sleek, angular warship, her mind racing with the implications. If the humans had indeed unlocked a new approach to military innovation that granted them access to such transformative technologies, then the consequences could be profound. The delicate balance of power that had sustained the galactic hegemony for generations could be irrevocably upended, leading to a period of chaos and upheaval that the Council had long sought to avoid. Yet, even as she grappled with these concerns, Tarakesh could not ignore the flicker of curiosity that burned within her. Elijah had spoken of this lateral thinking, a process that embraced the unpredictable creativity of the human mind, a concept that ran counter to the rigidly logical, algorithm-driven approaches that had long dominated the field of military engineering and innovation. Slowly, the speaker rose from her chair, her flowing robes rustling softly as she turned to face the assembled delegates. "Honored colleagues," she began, her voice resonating with a quiet authority. "It is clear that we stand at a crossroads, a moment of profound consequence for the future of the galactic hegemony." Terrakesh paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. "The humans have presented us with a remarkable technological achievement, one that challenges the very foundations of our understanding. And in doing so, they have also raised questions that we must now grapple with for the sake of the stability and prosperity of our civilizations." The speaker turned her attention to Elysia, her expression softening ever so slightly. "You have spoken of this lateral thinking, a revolutionary approach to military innovation that has enabled your people to reach such heights. Yet, I confess that I find myself intrigued, rather than threatened, by this concept." Terrakesh raised a hand, forestalling the murmurs of concern that had begun to ripple through the chamber. "I do not mean to imply that we should dismiss the potential dangers. The ramifications of your people's technological breakthroughs could be profound, upsetting the delicate balance of power that has endured for generations." The speaker's expression hardened once more, her next words laced with a note of warning. "But nor can we simply seek to suppress or control this newfound capability. To do so would be to deny the very essence of what makes the human spirit so remarkable, its boundless capacity for innovation and discovery." Terrakesh turned to face the delegates, her luminous eyes gleaming with a sense of resolve. "Therefore, I propose that we embark upon a course of action that will allow us to understand this lateral thinking more fully, to learn from it, and to determine how best to integrate it into the fabric of our own military doctrines." The speaker paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber once more. "For if we are to maintain the stability and prosperity of the galactic hegemony, we must be willing to embrace change, to adapt, and to forge a new path forward, one that honors the unique contributions of all our peoples, regardless of their technological prowess." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of murmurs and hushed whispers as Terrakesh's words hung in the air. The delegates, once united in their trepidation, now found themselves grappling with a new and unfamiliar emotion: curiosity. For generations, the elder races of the galactic hegemony had jealously guarded their military superiority, viewing it as the cornerstone of their civilizational might. The notion that a young, relatively insignificant species like the humans could possess the capacity to challenge this order, to reshape the very foundations of military innovation, was a prospect that filled many of the counselors with a deep sense of unease. Yet, as Terrakesh had so eloquently pointed out, to simply seek to suppress or control this newfound human capability would be to deny the very essence of what made them remarkable: their boundless capacity for discovery and their willingness to embrace the unpredictable. Elysia, standing before the council, could not help but feel a surge of cautious optimism. The speaker's words had struck a chord within her, resonating with the very core of the human spirit that had driven them to such heights of innovation. Perhaps, she dared to hope, the council would be willing to listen, to understand, and to forge a path forward that honored the contributions of all their peoples. Clearing her throat, Elysia stepped forward, her expression resolute. "Honored delegates, I must commend the wisdom of your speaker. For indeed, it is not our desire to upend the established order, but rather to find a way to coexist, to learn from one another, and to create a future that benefits us all." The human scientist paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembled counselors. "We understand the magnitude of the challenge that lies before us. The Armageddon, and the revolutionary approach that birthed it, represents a profound shift in the very nature of military technology, and we know that this shift has the potential to profoundly impact the delicate balance of power that has sustained your civilizations for millennia." Elysia took a deep breath, steeling herself for the next part of her plea. That is why we come to you today, not as conquerors or usurpers, but as humble explorers, seeking your counsel and your guidance. We believe that by working together, by sharing our knowledge and our insights, we can find a way to integrate this lateral thinking into the fabric of your own military doctrines, without disrupting the stability that you have so carefully cultivated. The human scientist paused, her expression tinged with a hint of trepidation. But we cannot do this alone. We require the assistance and collaboration of the elder races, for only with your expertise and your resources can we hope to fully understand the implications of our discoveries, and to ensure that they are wielded in a manner that benefits us all. Tarakesh listened, her brow furrowed in deep contemplation. The human's words had struck a chord within her, resonating with her own desire to forge a path forward that embraced change and innovation, without sacrificing the stability and prosperity of the galactic hegemony. Slowly, the speaker rose from her chair, her flowing robes rustling softly. "We have heard your plea, young Alicia, and we are prepared to heed it. But first, we must see for ourselves the true nature of this lateral thinking that has enabled your people to achieve such remarkable feats of military innovation." Tarakesh turned to address the assembled delegates, her voice ringing with a newfound sense of purpose. "I hereby dispatch a team of our finest military strategists and technicians to the human colony, tasked with the mission of studying the Armageddon and the processes that led to its creation. Only then can we begin to chart a course forward that honors the unique contributions of all our peoples." The delegation from the Galactic Council stepped onto the bustling streets of the human colony, their eyes wide with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. This was their first direct encounter with the people whose technological prowess in the realm of military might had so thoroughly upended the established order, and they were determined to uncover the true nature of the lateral thinking that had enabled such remarkable feats. Leading the delegation was Caloran, a brilliant young strategist from the Vosrathi Imperium, whose expertise in advanced combat tactics and weapon systems had earned him the respect of his peers. As he and his colleagues made their way through the vibrant, almost chaotic energy of the colony, they could not help but be struck by the distinct flavor that permeated every aspect of the human settlement. "There is something different about this place," Caloran murmured, his gaze darting from one gleaming spire to the next. "The architecture, the infrastructure, it all has a sense of purpose and dynamism that is quite unlike anything we have seen in our own cities." One of the delegates, a stern-faced Elarithian named Jirasa, nodded in agreement. Indeed, and the people themselves, they seemed to move with a sense of urgency and determination that is unsettling in a way, as if they are driven by an unquenchable thirst for discovery and innovation. Caloran raised a hand, silencing his colleague. "Let us not make hasty judgments, Jirasa. We are here to understand, not to condemn. The Council has tasked us with uncovering the true nature of this lateral thinking, and that is precisely what we shall do." The delegation made their way to the Central Research and Development Facility, where they were greeted by Alicia and a team of her most brilliant military engineers. As the humans ushered them into a cavernous laboratory, Caloran couldn't help but marvel at the sheer scale and complexity of the equipment that filled the space. "This is where the Armageddon was conceived and built," Alicia explained, her voice tinged with a palpable pride. "It is here that we have embraced the principles of lateral thinking, allowing our minds to explore unconventional avenues of military research and development." The human scientist gestured toward a holographic display that dominated one wall of the lab, its shimmering interface a dizzying array of complex schematics and data visualizations. "As you can see, the Armageddon is no mere feat of engineering. It is the product of a radically new approach to problem solving, one that transcends the boundaries of traditional military doctrines." Caloran stepped forward, his keen eyes studying the holographic display with rapt attention. "Fascinating," he murmured, his fingers tracing the intricate lines of the vessel's propulsion and weapon systems. "This level of integration between biological and technological components, it is unlike anything we have seen before." Girassa, who had been observing the proceedings with a more critical eye, cleared her throat. And how, precisely, does this lateral thinking enable such breakthroughs? Surely, it cannot be a simple matter of discarding the established rules of military engineering and strategy. Elysia smiled, sensing the underlying skepticism in the Elerithian's tone. Ah, but that is precisely the point, honored delegate. Lateral thinking is not about discarding the rules, but rather about challenging them, about being willing to explore unconventional paths that may lead to solutions beyond the limits of our current understanding. The human scientist gestured toward a team of her colleagues, who were busily engaged in a series of experiments. You see, we have learned to embrace the unpredictable, to allow our minds to make intuitive leaps that defy the constraints of linear logic. It is through this process of exploration and discovery that we have been able to achieve such remarkable feats of military innovation. Caloran, his curiosity piqued, stepped closer, his expression rapt. Then show us, if you will. Demonstrate to us the true nature of this lateral thinking that has so thoroughly captivated our council. Elysia's eyes gleamed with a sense of eagerness. It would be my honor. As the delegation from the Galactic Council observed the human scientists and engineers at work, they were struck by the sheer energy and dynamism that permeated the research facility. Gone were the rigid, step-by-step procedures and algorithm-driven methodologies that characterized the military innovation approaches of the elder races. Instead, the humans embraced a chaotic, almost frenetic pace, constantly shifting between experiments, testing new hypotheses, and challenging long-held assumptions. Caloran, the young Vosrathi strategist, found himself utterly captivated by the process, his keen intellect struggling to keep pace with the rapid-fire succession of ideas and innovations that flowed from the human team. I must confess, he murmured to Elysia, his voice tinged with a mixture of awe and trepidation. I have never witnessed anything quite like this. The way your people seem to embrace the unpredictable, to leap from one concept to the next without hesitation, it is both profoundly unsettling and remarkably compelling. Elysia flashed the Vosrathi a knowing smile. Unsettling, you say? I can certainly understand why our approach would be perceived as such by those who have grown accustomed to the rigid linear methodologies that have long dominated the field of military engineering and innovation. The human scientists gestured toward the bustling teams of researchers, their hands a blur of activity as they conducted a dizzying array of experiments. You see, we have learned to harness the creative potential of the human mind, to allow our innate curiosity and willingness to explore the unknown to guide us toward solutions that defy the constraints of conventional thinking. Caloran nodded slowly, his brow furrowed in deep contemplation. And this is what you call lateral thinking, a process of exploration and discovery that transcends the boundaries of traditional problem-solving. Precisely, Elysia replied, her eyes gleaming with a sense of excitement. It is through this approach that we have been able to achieve breakthroughs that your more technologically advanced civilizations have long thought impossible. The Armageddon is merely the first of what we believe will be many such innovations that will challenge the very foundations of the established order. Girassa, the stern-faced Elerithian delegate, stepped forward, her expression etched with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. And therein lies the crux of our concern, young Elysia. For if your people possess the ability to upend the delicate balance of power that has sustained our civilizations for generations, then we must carefully consider the ramifications, both for your people and for the stability of the galactic hegemony as a whole. The Elerithian's gaze swept across the bustling laboratory, her features hardening. This lateral thinking of yours, this embrace of the unpredictable, it has the potential to destabilize the carefully constructed hierarchies that have long defined our societies. We cannot simply ignore the implications, lest we risk the very foundations upon which we have built our prosperity and our influence. Elysia met Girassa's gaze unflinchingly, her expression resolute. I understand your concerns, honored delegate, and I assure you that we have no desire to disrupt or usurp the established order. Our intent is not to conquer or to dominate, but rather to collaborate, to share our knowledge and insights, and to forge a new path forward that benefits us all." The human scientist paused, her features softening. "But I cannot deny the transformative potential of what we have achieved. The Armageddon is merely the beginning, a testament to the boundless creativity and innovation that lies at the heart of the human spirit. And we believe that by working together, by integrating this lateral thinking into the fabric of your own military doctrines, we can create a future of unparalleled prosperity and security for all our peoples." Juras's expression remained stern, but Caloran could see a glimmer of intrigue in her eyes. The Vosrathi strategist knew that the council now stood at a crossroads, forced to grapple with the profound implications of the humans' discoveries, and to determine the course of action that would secure the stability and prosperity of the galactic hegemony for generations to come. The Grand Council chamber of the galactic hegemony was once again alive with the murmurs and whispers of the assembled delegates, each wrestling with the profound implications of what they had witnessed during their visit to the human colony. The sheer breadth and depth of the humans' military technological prowess had shaken the very foundations of their understanding, forcing them to reevaluate long-held assumptions and reckon with the possibility of a future that defied the established order. Tarakesh, the venerable speaker of the council, rose from her ornate chair, her flowing robes rustling softly as she regarded the gathered representatives with a palpable sense of gravity. The burden of this momentous decision weighed heavily upon her, for the choice they now faced would not only determine the fate of their own civilizations, but also the course of the entire galactic hegemony. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice resonating with a quiet authority that demanded silence, "we have borne witness to a remarkable transformation. A young species, once dismissed as primitive and inconsequential, has risen to challenge the very boundaries of our military might." The speaker paused, her luminous eyes sweeping across the chamber. "The humans have shown us a new path, one that embraces the unpredictable creative potential of the mind, rather than the rigid constraints of our traditional military doctrines. And in doing so, they have presented us with a profound choice: to resist this change and risk the upheaval of the delicate balance that has sustained our civilizations for generations, or to embrace it and forge a future of unparalleled progress and security for all our peoples." Tarakesh turned her gaze toward Elijah, who stood before the council, her expression resolute. "Young Elijah, you have spoken of your people's desire to collaborate, to share your knowledge and insights with us. And I confess that, in the face of your remarkable achievements, I find myself compelled to heed your call." The speaker raised a hand, silencing the murmurs that had begun to ripple through the chamber. "For too long, we have clung to the illusion of our own military superiority, dismissing the contributions of other species as insignificant. But the Armageddon, and the revolutionary approach that birthed it, has shattered that illusion, forcing us to confront the truth that the path to progress and innovation is not bound by the constraints of our own making." Tarakesh turned to address the assembled delegates, her expression softening. "Therefore, I propose that we extend a hand of partnership to the humans, inviting them to join us in a collaborative endeavor to integrate their lateral thinking into the very fabric of our own military doctrines." The speaker paused, her gaze sweeping across the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegate in turn. "For if we are to ensure the continued stability and prosperity of the galactic hegemony, we must be willing to embrace change, to adapt, and to forge a new path forward, one that celebrates the unique contributions of all our peoples, regardless of their technological prowess." Elijah, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and determination, stepped forward, her voice ringing with a newfound sense of purpose. "Honored delegates, on behalf of the people of the human colony, I accept your proposal with the utmost gratitude and enthusiasm. Together, we shall embark upon a journey of discovery and innovation that will redefine the very boundaries of what is possible, forging a future that transcends the limitations of the past." As the chamber erupted into a roar of approval and congratulations, Terakesh allowed herself a rare smile, her heart filled with a sense of optimism that she had not felt in countless cycles. The path ahead might be uncertain, but for the first time, the speaker truly believed that the future of the galactic hegemony was one of boundless possibility.